Um, so I do not know everything. I mean, I know that's obvious, but I want to make it clear that there are a myriad of tools out there that I have not played with or used. So just because I'm sharing my experience about the programs that I use, I'm not in any way, endorsing them over anything else that might be out there. I'm merely sharing with you guys what I found that works for me. So if those of you have experiences with alternate programs that you've liked, I encourage you to speak up and share that as well. I mean, we're all, get richer by learning the what's worked and not worked for you guys as well. So I really encourage you guys to join the conversation and speak up, with your experiences in your own businesses that you've been running for however long you've been doing it. Because at the end of the day, no matter what it is that we do, business runs on cash, and we need to be able to track it. We need to be able to invoice it. We need to be able to collect it. If we're not doing those functions, we're not paying our bills and feeding our bellies, and we have to go back to being employees. And I don't know about you guys, but that is like the last thing I ever want to do. I'm so done with what I want to talk about, what I'm going to start with is some basic concepts about the purpose of these tools. And from what I'm hearing from you guys, it sounds like you guys are pretty good with the tools that give you a professional persona, and want to hear more about the record-keeping side of it. That may be some of the things might not be happening. But I want to spend a couple minutes talking about some basic stuff that will help you guys have a persona, because in the business community, you'll be dealing with people who you don't have a personal relationship with, and they'll be making opinions about you based on, the look of your invoice, your email address, the spiffiness of your website, that sort of thing. So it may seem like it's easy to overlook that kind of stuff, and I encourage you guys to not, because you just don't know who's looking at your website and who your friend who you know well, who doesn't care what your email address is, refers you to one of their friends who doesn't know anything about you. They're going to start. And so having a complete online presence is, I think, a really helpful piece to not overlook when you're running your business and soliciting clients and that sort of thing. I want to say off the bat, I'm assuming that people here are comfortable with their information being out on the cloud. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is cloud-based, and there's a basic assumption there that you're comfortable having your information out on the cloud, and if that's not the case, I understand and respect that, and I don't have much to say to you, really. Sorry. One of the first things I want to talk, well, okay, before that, Google Voice phone number is, I have one myself, and it is, it's got a 707-583 phone number. It looks, like a normal local phone number, but I have control. It's currently routed to my cell phone. I can turn it off when I need to. When I'm going on vacation, I can forward it. It accepts text messages. I really encourage those of you who may just be starting out in your business to create a separation between your business and your personal life, because if you don't, you'll be always on the hook for your clients, and they will call on Saturday mornings and Sunday evenings, and you won't get. One of the most important things is that work-life balance. Most of us here work for ourselves, and there's a lot of joy and freedom in that, and we also have to remember to have boundaries around our work life so that we can stay healthy for a little while, and taking a little vacation from the phone and the email. And it's not really a techie thing. Is to go ahead and get an EIN, get a different federal ID number that you can use on the W-9s that people are probably sending out to you right now because they want to issue you a 1099. It's just less places that your social security number is floating out there. You can do it online. It's very easy. It takes, I don't know, 10 minutes or something, and it's one way to kind of help protect your social security number a little bit more. It's kind of ironic because I'm talking about everything being in the cloud, so what does it matter? But hey, it's something, it helps. Let's see here. If you use Gmail, or maybe even if you don't, I don't know a whole lot about it, but Google Apps is a program that will help you guys personalize your email address and give you more of that professional look like I'm talking about. That's on my to-do list. Do you even need a fax number? Who here has a fax number and uses it for, okay, yeah, right. The only reason I got one was because I was the only way that the IRS would accept a power of attorney that I wanted to send off to them. But I have literally, fax numbers are yeah, right? Twice, right, yeah, exactly, right. So, on the note of creating that separation between your business and yourself, I highly recommend creating a separate bank account for your business, even if it is a sole proprietorship, a separate credit card account, a separate PayPal account, if you do use PayPal for business as well as personal stuff. A lot of the accounting software that I'm going to talk about, the large benefit of it is that it can link automatically with those accounts and import that information, and then you classify it. That is a huge time saver for tracking your expenses, but it only works when you have a separate bank account and credit card account and whatnot for your business. So you know, I can't, it is one of the starting points for being able to get on top of your business and the cash flow coming in and the cash flow going out, because that's so key to continuing to do what you're doing. I'm curious, how many of you guys pay or get paid in Bitcoin? No? Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Do you get paid in Bitcoin?
I don't. I don't. Not yet. Because of who I am and what I do, I would still report it even if someone paid me in Bitcoin, which is one of the large benefits of using Bitcoin, is the anonymity of it. So to me, no real benefit of Bitcoin. But I was just curious because it's out there, and in 5 years I think it'll be a lot more common, especially for those of us who do international transactions. I know it can be common to hire subcontractors in other countries to do subcontracting work for us, and so we might be seeing more of it in that capacity. Okay. The first thing that I have on my list, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, is Harvest for time tracking and billing, which is what I use. I use Harvest. All right, we got another Harvest guy back there. I'm sorry?
It'll save you tons of money and make you tons of money.
Right, exactly. So one of the keys of being a good business person is you want professional looking invoices, like I talked about earlier. You want to make it as easy as possible for your clients to pay you. Online invoices, Harvest links beautifully with PayPal. It can also take credit cards. I haven't set that part up yet. Do you have that set up?
Yeah, I do it with Stripe.
Stripe. Yeah, I've heard good things about Stripe. All right, so there you go.
Is FreshBooks any good still?
I have no personal experience with FreshBooks. I know one or two people who use it. What's that?
We can take that offline.
Well, no, FreshBooks is on my list to talk about. From the little bit that I understand about FreshBooks, it's kind of a hybrid between Harvest and Xero. It's not quite as robust as either, but it does a fair amount of both. So I think that it has a place, and I think it's got. I think there's a certain type of business that it does work fine for. When we get into the accounting software, which we'll get to in just a minute or so, we can talk a little bit more about when FreshBooks might be appropriate versus Xero. Also, do you know FreshBooks? Does it do timekeeping? Does it do? I know it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Do you use FreshBooks? Or you?
I haven't done independent contracting for over a year, but
okay.
Prior to that, I had used FreshBooks. Started using it in 2007, actually. So.
Okay.
Decent amount of experience.
Yeah.
I think the way you characterized it is right. It's kind of a hybrid. It doesn't do anything particularly great, but it brings all together, all the basics together.
Right. And sometimes there's a lot to be said for going to one place and one platform instead of Harvest for your invoicing and then Xero for your accounting. To have it all in one place there's not an integration, which you can have with Harvest, which I use. It does a really good job of copying the invoices over to Xero for my accounts receivable, but when people pay me, it doesn't. I still have to manually match up those payments with the receivables in Xero. It's not as sophisticated as I would like. Harvest is a great job of knowing when an invoice gets paid and marking that as paid, and it doesn't. The integration isn't as smooth into Xero as I would like it to be. So that is one limitation that I've found with my current setup. Who's used PayPal for invoicing? Okay. How does that work for you guys? And what tell me about the integration with the accounting software?
It's just linked straight to my bank account.
Okay. Well, that's nice. We like that. We definitely like the straight to our bank account. But so one of the big points that I want to make is that too often people go to QuickBooks because everyone says I should go to QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is the industry standard out there. And QuickBooks and even Xero is a lot more than a lot of smaller businesses need. I have one guy who exports a year's worth of his transactions into an Excel sheet and then makes columns for, you know, marketing and gas and, you know, advertising and that sort of, and then just kind of copies them out that way. It's somewhat labor intensive, but it's, for his purpose, it's not that bad. So one of the other big keys I wanted to make is that the line for me is, well, employees is one of them, but really more when you're self-employed, you don't have to keep a balance sheet. So it really is cash in and cash out, and you don't have the reconciling, you don't have the capitalizing of fixed assets. You're usually cash basis, so you're not really dealing with you know, recording your payables very far out in the future. Although I do recommend that just for cash flow purposes. But you don't need the robustness of a QuickBooks or a Xero when you're a small Schedule C, self-employed, independent contractor type thing. Yeah.
A question I just want to throw in for some point. How do you find that, like, I'm super busy with just doing the work of running my business, the time to manage projections and cash flow analysis and things like that seem like they would be helpful, but often it's just enough to get the work done. So,
and if you could try repeating the question for the...
Oh, right. For the, sure. So the gentleman in the back here said, I find oftentimes I'm so busy running my business that I don't have the time to sit down and run those projections like everyone says I should be doing. How often do you run out of money?
no.
Right. So,
He's an anomaly, this one.
well, no, that's
Ebbs and flows.
right.
Sure, but
Right.
let's be honest,
So,
I'd like to make more now. How do I
well,
do that? Like just raising prices? That's a bigger
so
question.
yeah, no, right, yeah, making more money. So he's asking, you know, so what if I want to figure out how do I make more money or that sort of thing. The different question than how do I track my income and expenses and forecast out what the cash flow will be in the future.
I guess maybe a more simple way to ask it would be, how much time is reasonable to expect to spend on doing these things per month?
You know, it all depends. I would argue that if you're not running out of money, if you're meeting your bills on a regular basis, then you're doing okay. It gets much harder when you have a more seasonal business. It gets much harder when you have employees. I don't know what you pay in rent or overhead or that sort of thing, but a lot of you know, self-employed independent contractors are, you know, can run their business just fine without having to forecast out, you know, to spend the work doing it. It's more business, like I said, businesses that are above a certain level that do have, you know, long-term heavy commitments or very seasonal revenue flows that need to do, that I think it's really more important to do the projecting which we're talking about. Yeah.
You were saying that we don't need to use QuickBooks or Xero.
Zero. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I use QuickBooks.
Okay.
I'm a very small company.
How often do you look at the balance sheet?
Never. I don't need the balance sheet.
Exactly.
But I
Right,
you know,
right.
I reconcile all my
Mhm,
bank accounts,
mhm.
but I have the detailed income
Right.
statement
Right.
at the end of the year.
Okay.
So how do I get that?
Yeah, I would argue Mint, which we were going to talk about.
Oh, good.
Mint. There's no data entry with Mint. You link your accounts, it imports all of your transactions. You simply categorize them as they get imported. The key is you need a separate business checking account, which I assume you already have, because it's going to pull in all of that information, and then to weed through what's personal versus business is I think too time consuming. I would rather have 2 separate bank accounts and 2 separate Mint logins. I think that's the better way to do it. But save yourself the data entry. If you're not looking at the balance sheet, if you're not setting up vendors and payables and
Do some invoicing, that's it, but I can use the other.
right,
program.
right, exactly, yeah. Your balance sheet's probably a mess anyway.
Oh, yeah, because I haven't been.
Right,
every year.
exactly. There's probably a nicer way to say that, but but the point is that I think you're a perfect candidate to. I mean, it's free and there's no data entry. How much time?
I love that what you just said. It's free because I was worried about what it costs.
Right. Yeah. Say that again.
I just think it's totally free.
It's totally free. Yeah. Have you used? I just saw today Mint bills.
No, I just saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good and easy thing. If it's going to be any simpler than me using my payables on my bank account.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you looked at it yet?
Just today. I just played around with it today. Yeah.
So I've never heard of Mint.
Oh.
What is it? What does it do?
Okay. Mint is it builds a personal finance tool, but it really can be used for small businesses. It is online. They've got an app. They're owned by Intuit, which I personally hate Intuit, but there's a certain amount of backing. If Intuit is behind Mint, they're well bankrolled. They're not going anywhere. They're going to continue to invest in the latest encryption and data security and all of that kind of stuff. So essentially, I'll pull it up here.
They make their money off of like insurance upsells and advertising.
Yeah, that's right.
Credit card.
Yeah, right. There are ads. But I mean, come on, right? When something's free, there's ads. I would hope that we're kind of used to that by now. So we are going to, looks like, I don't want to, what I want is just the, there we go. Show us the spiffy, what's so great about Mint. There we go. I'm not going to log in. You can see the pretty pictures there and check it out yourself. But it's like I said, it builds itself finance tracking tool, but it can be used for business as well. And you go in and you log in with your bank credentials and credit cards and whatnot, and it automatically imports the transaction activity into its own interface, and then tries to categorize it based on like what the vendor is. So Home Depot is going to be home repairs, and Flavor is going to be restaurants and that sort of thing. It does need to be tweaked a little bit as your purchasing preferences happen. Does Mint? I think Mint learns over time, right? So if you say that, right?
Yeah, you can modify and it learns. Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty modifiable as far as I know. I mean, do
Right.
lots of accounts regularly. I'm not an accountant or bookkeeper, but you can use some of that.
Yeah, it can work. for that situation. It doesn't. It kind of does, but it doesn't do a very good job of keeping a balance sheet. So if you are an LLC or a corporation or S corporation or that sort of thing, I don't think, I think you're beyond Mint at that point. But for sole proprietors, it's a great and free tool. It's very easy to use. Let's go to Mint Bills, which we were just talking about. It's relatively new, and so Mint is on the bank account and credit card sort of thing. Mint Bills is more focused on the schedule, helping as they come in. So you can set up your bill pays, which is really nice. An invoice comes in, you can tell it pay it in 30 days, and it's all set up, and it will do it automatically. And you can get the benefit of waiting, but you don't have to be at your computer on that 30th day to go ahead and pay the invoice or bill, whatever it is. I want to spend. Go ahead.
Have you taken a look at that? I mean, how much more helpful is that than like your online banking, where you can forecast have your bill be paid on the day?
Well,
payments
I haven't really played with it, to be honest with you. I would guess that the benefit of using Mint over, your bank feature is if you have several bank accounts, you could manage them all from one place. So that might be. But then again, if you're using it just for business, then it should be just one bank account, and then there wouldn't be that need. Interface might be a little.
As a sort of even a simplification to that, I've run before my business just on a credit card. So all the payments go through that credit card. So even if I don't want to have like a separate bank account, it all comes in just to my personal account. But then all the expenses for the business are on that one card. I just pay it up each month, and then I have perfect records of it. Everything goes the same thing, all the timing is there, and it's made it simplified for me not to have, like, okay, it goes into the business account, and then I have to transfer it over to the other account each month to do things. It makes it more simple.
How do you track the income piece of it then?
Harvest.
Harvest.
Everything comes through Harvest. So I
Right,
have
right,
perfect
right.
records
Yeah,
of
Harvest is great.
And then perfect records on the credit card, and the rest of it kind of is, goes
Right,
into
right.
the family fund.
Yeah.
So,
No, right. I think that works fine for your situation. Yeah. Right. That's one of the big things, is using technology to do all of the data entry and automate as much of that as possible. So that sounds great. Yeah. I want to show Zero a little bit. Hope it's not going to show my login. Okay.
Let's try and blow this too, so it's
Sure.
better.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Okay. So Zero is a more robust accounting software platform that is still cloud-based. You know what? How many people need to keep a balance sheet here? Okay.
What's a balance sheet?
And you don't need to keep one if you don't know. Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, cash in, cash out is really all sole proprietors need to know. So I don't think, unless there's questions about Zero, maybe you and I could talk afterwards a little bit.
Probably not something.
What's that?
I would probably rule it out already. It's not something I need.
Okay.
at all. So
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. All right, so I answered your question. Cool. Yeah. That's, those are the big things. Here's a tech tool for you guys. A headset for your phone. They're hugely, hugely wonderful. If you haven't plunked down the, I say, spend at least $50 and get ones with a nice cushiony, earpiece. The ability to walk around your office and use hand gestures when you're talking to a client, and type something up when someone asks you a question, and you jot down notes. The freedom of having your hands free when you're on the phone is huge. And I know it's simple, but if you don't have one, your life will be immeasurably better by getting one. So.
From an ergonomic standpoint as well.
I'm sorry?
From an ergonomic standpoint.
From,
as well.
right. Especially as our phones get larger and larger, right? I mean, I've got a note, and the thing is just ridiculous.
Here's a question, Ian.
Yeah.
When you're in a very beginning stage of a business, aka WIMP, and
Okay.
you're putting money in the business yourself, and things kind of get messy between what's
Well,
going where. Like,
uh-huh.
how do you keep track of
So,
sense?
see, the answer for you is going to be a little bit different than it is for a general self-employed person, because if you don't mind my sharing, this WIMP is a separate legal entity, and so does have the requirement to keep a balance sheet. So the answer for you is a little bit different, but generally speaking, cash in from business owners doesn't really, I mean, you guys want to know, and so you would track that from your capital accounts, but for a self-employed person, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter just as much as cash out matters. You will get taxed on the income of your business regardless of how much cash you actually take out. So if you have a really good year and your business checking account winds up the year with $100,000 in it, that is great. You're still going to get taxed on that $100,000 that you earned. I'm generalizing, but in a situation like yours, you're going to have capital accounts for each of the partners, and so tracking the money that people put in will be important. In which case, that is a balance sheet transaction, and you would need something like Xero or QuickBooks Online. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The other thing that I love that has made my life much easier is I have a password manager app on my phone. The last time I checked, I've got almost 100 different passwords, and they are different for every single website. Probably, I'm sure not a week goes by that I'm not signing up for some new service and adding some new password. So don't use the same password for everything, and a password manager is a great way to be able to do that and manage your passwords.
Keep it on your phone?
Well, that's the downside. I do keep it on my phone.
What if you lost your phone?
Well, that's the downside, yeah.
Okay,
there,
better move it to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are. I haven't taken the time to set it up, but there are.
Yeah. But what about Chrome? And Chrome doesn't that essentially, but Chrome has a
Your browser.
they have a
Okay.
cloud-based
Uh-huh,
password.
uh-huh.
You know, they remember your password. Is that and it works on phone too?
I think you're probably thinking more along the lines of LastPass or something like that, which actually
Right.
does manage it and keep it in the cloud, and you just access it with some master password.
Oh,
And then it's basically on a computer, you go and there's like an extension that says use this password for this site, or on your phone, it's the same sort of thing. Pull up that password.
Fast pass, huh?
LastPass.
LastPass. All right. I gotta do
I
that.
actually use a pattern
Uh huh.
that involves the site that I'm registering for.
Okay.
And so if it's like Wells Fargo, it would be, you know, the first 4 characters of the domain and then whatever the rest of my pattern is.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it because then I can be without anything sitting in a client's place or in an office, and I have
Right,
complete
right.
access.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but and then every single one is unique.
Right.
So
That's the key.
it's
Yeah.
another way of handling it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome. Do you guys, how many Gmail users? A few? Okay. Have any of you transitioned over to Inbox?
Oh, the new
The,
app.
yeah, the, uh-huh.
On my phone, it works great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Do you guys want to see Inbox?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. You're going to see my email, but I don't think it's just work, so we should be all right.
Takes some training, but
Yeah, it did. It took me a day or two to fully switch over, and in fact, my biggest complaint about Inbox, even though I still use it primarily, is that it doesn't do the email signatures, and I have important disclaimers as well as contact information on my emails, so I still have the old Gmail open on a different app and jump over to that every time I need to send an email where I want my full signature on there. So that is one big downside to Inbox is it doesn't have the signatures, but it is just so much more intuitive, and my inbox is so much more organized than it ever was. So this is Inbox by Gmail, and those of you who are Gmail users, you will eventually be transferred over to this. One of the big new things is it has this ability to group emails, and you can create custom groups, versus Gmail, you're sort of stuck with the 4 that they give you, which is still better than nothing. But so I've created a custom email group for tax news blasts, so that you know, I get various tax stuff together. So it's not cluttering my inbox when that stuff comes in, and it's not linked in with updates or what are the other ones?
yeah, they have smart
Promos.
that basically group everything together for you initially.
Right,
And then
right,
you can
right.
train them to say, oh, these are forum updates, these are newsletters.
Right,
And then
right.
the critical pieces percolate up without having to be stuck in
Right, right,
scanning them all or setting up 1,000 filters like you do in the older interface.
right, right, right. It's pretty cool. The other nice feature is to be able to tell an email to come back at a specific time. So someone emails you and you're not going to be able to get to it today, but you don't want to lose it in your inbox. You tell it to pop back up tomorrow morning. I'll respond then when I have more time. I use that frequently, and it's very helpful. The other thing I do is I'm oftentimes sending lists of questions to clients, and then they need to get back to me so that we can finish up the tax return. I will set that email up to re-pop up in a week. And if I haven't heard back from them on my list of questions, it pops back up and I go, oh, hey, just checking in. How's it going getting this information? So it's not cluttered. It'll pops back up when I need it. So I find that to be very, very helpful. The feature I haven't done, and I'm kind of curious if you figured out a good use for this, is you can tell them to pop up based on your location.
No, I haven't used that yet.
Yeah, I haven't figured out it. It's cool, but I haven't quite figured out a need for that yet either.
Have you used Unroll Me? It shows all your newsletters and it clumps them. I haven't used it yet, but
Unroll Me.
it's the kind of.
Oh yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Unroll Me has like save my inbox.
Recommend it?
It'll go through your inbox and it'll find things that you're subscribed to, and it'll give you the option to either roll it up into one daily email that you get, or leave it in your inbox as is.
Is this just for Gmail?
I
Or
think, I use it with Gmail or my Google Apps. It might work with other services.
Okay.
what's it called? What's it called?
Unroll.me.
Unroll.
It's
Nice.
fabulous.
Yeah.
There's a similar one called SaneBox, but it's
Okay.
you have to pay. But it basically, you just give it your login credentials, and it just looks at the subjects, and it learns over time your behavior around it, and it puts everything in sane later, unless you actually really need to see it.
Yeah.
I'm running my website domain name and the email, my professional email address through GoDaddy.
Okay.
And so I got their workspace, and I was wondering how difficult it would be to transition from the that domain name website or my email address is linked to my domain name to take it over to Google Inbox.
I can't answer that question, but I bet you there's someone here who can. So I should repeat the question. He's currently using GoDaddy for his website and email, and he's looking at switching over to Google for the email. And then who would host your website? Would it still be GoDaddy or?
That's up in the air.
Okay. So yeah.
Yes, you can transition those things. It's what you would want to do is you'd sign up for Google for Work or Google Apps, as it's called, and you would point your domain name to that, so your emails would go there. Migrating your emails from one to the other is a bit iffy, and there is sometimes to do it properly so that there's no interruption in service it's not tricky, but you just have to follow the steps really carefully. So you can do it, but I don't think Inbox supports Google for Work or Google Apps yet. I think it's still, because I don't have access to it yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's only been a couple weeks.
Right.
I've had it for a couple months.
And you're
but-
doing it for work, so.
Interesting. I'll have to experience that. Check that out because Google Apps was one of the next things that I was going to integrate. So
It's really fantastic.
yeah.
If you said on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the most helpful, 1 the least, going from regular Gmail to Inbox, I mean, how much easier is a major business in your life?
Quite a bit, to be honest with you. Yeah, it has been significant.
I already use filters and folders and stuff, but you're saying like it's a lot easier than
You can
doing
use
all that.
both, actually,
Uh-huh,
and the groups that you make in Inbox will show up as filters in your regular
Okay.
Gmail account. So I have it on my phone, and I use it there as my primary mail app on my phone, and then I just use a regular Gmail interface on my computer.
Huh. Yeah. I've enjoyed the inbox interface. It's for me it's been very helpful tracking stuff and cutting down on the clutter in my inbox. I know that a lot of the stuff that it does could have also been done in regular Gmail, like the archive function. but I find I do it more because it's easier with this. You just basically see this little check mark right here. So when you mark it done, it's archived is what it's doing. It's the same thing as archiving the email before, but because it's easier and, I don't know, cooler, funner, I do it more consistently with Inbox than I did before.
Frustrated by the fact that the delete button is hard to get to.
Delete. Yeah, no.
You have to like click a couple extra things. To get to it.
Right. Yeah.
I actually do want to delete this. I don't want to ever see this again.
Yeah. So do you have?
No, it's in the app. It's like a software delete button.
Does it have an unsubscribe from the title of the email thing? That would be cool if you unsubscribe right from the title of an email message.
Let's look.
Well, I think the purpose with the inbox idea is more that when you're looking at specific types of messages,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be, they're contextually related. So first thing I come in the morning, I'm not going to be reading newsletters. I should be looking at what's critical. What are the business messages that are coming in?
Right.
So by bundling updates and newsletters into this sort of rolled up little package, I can effectively ignore that until I find the time to do it. Because often I want to keep those emails.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to see them when I'm in the middle of processing my normal email.
Yeah.
So say
Mm-hmm.
before when I'm getting off, I'll go and I'll read those other roll-ups and I can process them more quickly. It's not using my prime mental energy from the morning. And then when you're in a given category, like updates, you see just all the updates. So you can kind of stay in that context rather than like, here's a work email, here's a newsletter, here's an invitation to a party. Does that make sense? Like, here's all the newsletters. Right. So that's the effect. That's what they're working on.
The one thing I don't like about Inbox that apparently Unroll.me would handle is when an update comes in, it pops the updates up at the very top again, and I get distracted because another stupid update came in that I don't really care about. So I really like the idea of having just once a day, it's showing up. For me, it would be in the afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm ready for a little break and reading something easy and kind of fun. So to not get distracted until I'm ready would be a big benefit. The other thing that I do a lot, once again, it's similar to what you can do on a phone or whatever, is the reminder feature. So, I can set myself reminders to call someone back in 24 hours or, pick something up on the way home or whatever. So that's been very helpful as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have 2 businesses. Web and graphic design is one, and the other one is more on the sporadic side. I'm an herbalist. I make products and I sell,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
but I get orders in randomly. So one month I might have 2 orders, and then I won't get anything for 3 or 4 months. So how
Okay.
am I, as far as the tools that you're presenting,
Mm-hmm.
how would I categorize those? Would I have? I mean,
So-
obviously, I want 2. Do I want 2 separate things?
As an herbalist, do you keep inventory? Do you have to buy a bunch of stuff and then you wait for people to order it and then you send it to them?
I have inventory. I make it more on an as-needed basis.
Okay.
So
So you have raw materials.
I have raw material that can
Okay.
hold, and if I don't have it, I go
mhm.
purchase it, and I
Right.
keep notes of my purchases.
Okay.
But
So how do you know how much that stuff costs you?
it's probably I know it's costing me more than what I'm selling it for. That's why I don't
Mm-hmm.
make it my main business,
Right.
because I'm not. I do it as a passion, but I also know I'm like, God, I can't afford this, but I love it.
Right.
So I don't, I mean, right now I have a consistent small group of clients that love my products, and
Okay.
I'm not pushing to look for more because I can't financially do that.
Right.
Um, But
Okay.
it's still, at this point I haven't, it's so sporadic that I haven't claimed it on my taxes because I'm not making enough to do that. So I'm
Can
not
we
sure.
can we mute this for a minute here?
No, but
Sorry.
she could call that a hobby, the IRS.
It is.
Right,
I'm
right,
not,
right.
It's just like I don't.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
I'm like selling it for like $10.
Right, right,
for
right,
a jar.
right.
So I'm trying to.
Well, with a hobby, you can only deduct your expenses up until the amount of your income, and I would imagine that you're deducting all of your supplies.
Yeah.
So.
So it's like there's part of me that wants to just get rid of it and not do it at all, but it is still a passion of mine, and I still
Right,
have clients
right.
that want stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious on how to.
So.
Would I be
Mm-hmm.
creating two? Obviously, I'd be creating two separate things, or even because they're not two related businesses at all.
Right. So they're really not related businesses. For tax purposes, it will all get rolled up into one number and taxed on your tax return.
Okay.
And I would say that because the herbal stuff that you do is a relatively small and you're not putting a lot of focus on it, I would keep the whole thing together. I would. That's not technically correct, so let's hope the IRS isn't listening.
And it's on the internet.
And it's on the internet, so yeah. If I'm going to jail, you're coming with me. But there's a line of practicality that you have to deal with, and from what you've told me and your situation and the fact that you're not really focusing on it, it's such a small piece of what you're doing overall. It's not worth the effort to separate it out. I mean, we're humans, so. All right, well. Any other questions about, you had a question about, I didn't write it down very well. I feel like there was another question that someone had that we maybe not have.
How to get all of your expenses and so forth managed at the end of the year for taxes, categorized and so forth. So your Mint.
I would suggest Mint moving forward. I don't know that you'll be able to import prior transactions, so I don't think it's going to help you for 2014. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding, is that Mint.
Go back only like 6 months.
Right.
The bank partly too.
Right. Because there's a charge to Mint for pulling that transactions from. So.
I was using iBank, which will import from credit card and from
Okay.
the bank. But mid-year, I had to change my password on the bank account, and for some reason, I could not get iBank to change the password. So anyway,
Okay.
I'm looking for a better solution.
Well, if Mint goes back 6 months and 6 months ago your iBank cut off, you actually might be able to use and then just combine the two into one total for the tax return. Worth checking out. I'm a big fan of not data entry, so finding ways that I can automate and use technology tools, exporting to a CSV file or Excel or something.
Right, well, the bank would do that.
Right.
So if I could export the whole thing as a CSV, or I think what's it called, QFX or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of formats.
Right.
So it would export the full year data, and then I could just import it into a new program. But Mint won't go back with that.
Yeah.
So-
Have you imported data into Mint?
You can't.
Yeah.
There's ways
right.
of trying to get sneaky around it. People have written like Excel scripts and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Not for the average user.
Yeah.
I'll just set it up for this year maybe.
Yeah, I would do that. Just set it up as soon as possible so that you can get rolling for this year moving forward. I remember now, you had a question about you have a new business that's different from your old business. Maybe that was you. No, I thought it was you. Right.
But I was wondering, I mean, as far as what I can deduct being a freelancer.
Okay. So what was your business before and what is your business now?
I was a freelance teacher, and now I'm
Okay.
a freelance WordPress web developer.
Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything was based around education, but and now, and I went to people's homes, and like, I didn't have to have any kind of rent or anything.
Okay.
So now I have rent, and so then, can I deduct I know that, can I deduct my mileage still? Because I used to be able to deduct my mileage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
can I deduct my lunch? There's all these questions I have. Is
Okay.
what can I deduct?
Okay. So those two lines of businesses are not different enough that there's totally separate rules from one to the other. So a lot of what you've done before, you should be able to continue to do with your new business. There might be some different expense categories and that sort of thing, but the rules are still going to be the same for you. In fact, the rules for mileage are the same for a multinational corporation as they are for a sole proprietor. So there's a lot of what you know already should transfer over.
And I used to deduct I used to buy a lot of books, but now I buy a lot of software. It seems to be the same kind of category in a way. So I'm wondering.
Well, software as a service is deductible like rent, because you're sort of just you're renting it every month or whatever. Software that you purchase is a little bit trickier, but Congress did update the Section 179 rules, so you can still deduct the entire amount of your off-the-shelf software that you purchase.
Appreciate it, you mean?
No, well, it's a form of depreciation is technically what it is. But the point is that you can write, all of that off in the current year, as long as you have enough income to support that deduction.
Same thing with hardware, isn't it? That you can deduct the whole thing under a certain amount?
Yeah, and it's like $200,000. Yeah.
Don't think I'm gonna be buying that.
I thought you'd be pretty safe there. You can't deduct so much that your income goes negative. It will create a carryover, is what it'll do. But up until that point, you can deduct all of that. Well, autos are a little bit tricky, but most typical assets, equipment and whatnot that you would buy for business, computers and software and that sort of thing, you should be able to deduct currently.
And what about meals? I mean, like your lunch and stuff, as you're going off-site.
If you're eating with someone, even if you don't pay for their meal, then that is a business meal and it's deductible 50%. If you go to a client's office and you're working in their office and you go down the street for lunch, that's not really deductible.
Okay, so you just keep track of it on your list.
Just keep track of it. The key is if you're eating with someone,
Yeah.
and talk business, then it is a business.
Yeah, that's
expense.
how I always think about it. Do we talk about business at dinner?
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Other category. Oh, home office.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of business talk.
Regular and exclusive use. It does not have to be separated by walls. It can be a corner of the living room. It has to be used regularly and exclusively for business
It
purposes.
used to be a separate part of the house. Now it can be just a certain amount of square footage that
Exactly.
you designate.
Yeah. There's a simplified calculation that the IRS allowed 2 years ago now. It's a flat $5 a square foot, which
I
is
didn't realize that. I'm always figuring out the gas and the all that.
so the flat $5 a square foot is great for people who move frequently during the year, people who keep poor records, renters who don't have a lot of expenses because there's no depreciation in that, which you wouldn't get anyway. There's a lot of situations where the $5 a square foot is great for people. Generally speaking, you'll get a higher deduction if you keep all of your expenses and then you do the percentage. But for people who don't, it's sometimes a lot easier to just take, what is my square footage, and go from there. It's pretty easy. So. Any other questions? No?
So if I were hiring a CPA, what questions would I ask him?
How many times have you been to jail? And I've only been once, so I'm pretty good. That's the question. It's a relationship, and you want to find someone that you enjoy working with. Ultimately, and the fees are reasonable.
What are reasonable fees for CPA?
It all depends on the complexity of your situation. It really does.
For an average, for a small business where you brought in all your records complete, and so you're gonna have your personal and your small business.
So I have a minimum of $250 for a return. It's just hard for me to manage the client relationship for less than that. There are people who will do it for less. They're usually not around year long, and they're probably not as don't have the depth of knowledge that I have. But there are people out there for whom that's just perfect. So I think it's are you looking for a one-off type, drive-by type situation, or are you looking to work with someone who's going to look for things that you might have missed and try and educate you about what the rules are and what might be possible for your situation?
Because you have an ongoing relationship. I've had gone to a couple where I know they're dealing with big businesses and big clients.
Right.
And so they charge a lot.
Right.
It'd be nice to find somebody like you who's
Okay.
a smaller business.
Well, I am the entirety of my corporation. It is all me. I'm a sole proprietor, single person shop. So it's a very different experience, for better or for worse. I don't do estate taxes. I don't do international taxation. Usually that's not an issue, but there are clearly areas that I don't want to get into. But I think I'm a great guy to work with. So very personable, reasonable rates, and knows a fair amount. So I'm happy to chat with you offline if you want to quote or whatever. You want to come and make a meeting or something, we could do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to speak to this, or not, great. I'm just wondering: is are accountants going towards like the package-based services, as like other entrepreneurs are in that?
There's a lot of buzz about value billing. So I have one client who is a entrepreneur business owner who's got more ideas than he can keep up with himself. And so he pays me a monthly retainer, and he fires all these random questions off at me whenever this great idea hits him. That is a unique situation. I have tried to get people onto more of a value billing model where I don't have to track my time and they pay me a fee and they have access to my brain for the entire year. And people didn't want to pay the extra money if they didn't know that they needed it. So it is a great concept, and I think it has some situations where it does work, but it hasn't realized as much for my business and my client relationships as other people might. Where it does work really well is the larger accounting firms that bundle all of their services. So they're doing your accounting, they're doing your tax prep, they're doing your payroll and all of that kind of stuff. It's easy to, it works better in that size model, but I don't deal with those kind of businesses really all that much, so.
Today, like we were talking a lot about more tax preparation than accounting, and I'm curious, like I have a tax preparer right now that does it fine, but I'm finding that I would benefit from what everyone keeps saying, like an accountant. What's the benefit? What do I get in working with you regularly as an accountant versus just a tax preparer?
I am primarily a tax preparer. Okay. I don't do bookkeeping. In the situation like we talked about before, I mean, you're not running out of money, and you know you've got a pretty well system that's automating your record keeping. Well, but it's automated. He's got the credit card that's linked to Mint, so as long as he makes sure to charge all his business expenses on his credit card, he's doing the accounting that an accountant would do, really. For larger businesses, there is a need for an accountant, but someone like yourself, keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it cheap, That's my 2 cents. So. Okay. Well,
All right, if that's it.
I think we're all done.
Thank you, Ian, so much.